Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And I'm actually fairly happy to tell you we have a lot to do here. There might be a few days here and there over the next 2 months where I might not be able to tell you that in earnest. Today, we do. Lane Kiffin spoke yesterday. Want to hear a little bit of that coming up in 15 minutes. We'll talk to Dr. Jeremy Burnham from Oxnard in the bottom of the hour. Koki Riley will be here at 2 o'clock to kind of put a bow on LSU's baseball season. The Saints started OTAs today. I'm going to go back and look at my preseason predictions. And Ross Dellinger has an exclusive report over at Yahoo that we have to start the show with today. So lots to do over the next 2 hours. Lock us in. Let's get cranked up with our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
I wouldn't go as far as definitely saying today was a huge day in the future of college sports. It may be, but I'm not sure of that. There's a long way to go. But today, Ted Cruz, Republican senator from Texas, Maria Cantwell, Democratic senator from Washington, introduced their legislation for the future of college sports. Now, before I get into some of the details, and I want to be clear, I'm also not going to get into every detail. Ross's story on Yahoo is very long. It's incredibly well done. It is free. If you want to go read it, I highly recommend doing that. I've done so twice and have hit kind of the high notes for my purposes and my audience's purposes, but I can't get into all of it. And I can't claim to be an expert on all of it. So I think over time, we'll certainly have some discussions, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Ross joined Matt later on today, as he does quite frequently, to talk about all of this. But it is undoubtedly an effort to try to keep things corralled here because we have broken contain in collegiate athletics, and I think anyone would suggest that's true. Players, coaches, fans, athletic directors, boosters, everybody's aware. We just threw rules out the window. Roster limits are out of control. Payments are astronomical. We don't know if it's sustainable. Guys are coming from Europe to play basketball. They're signing in the NBA and coming back to play basketball. We're cutting sports left and right. We don't know what the future is of Olympic sports. We've got teams over on the Pacific Coast playing in the ACC. It's a lot that's gone on. And the thought is, okay, let's try to put some rules together here that they've got to follow to put things back together is probably a poor term, but to create some stability, I think is probably fair. So Ross's story is up at Yahoo. I'll get into this, but what I feel like is important to suggest before this is y'all are aware when you've got a lot of things introduced in legislation, which this is a lot. There's a lot of pieces to this pie. Getting everyone to agree on that and putting it into law, that takes a little time. So this ain't happening in 2 weeks. This is the beginning of trying to get something together. I think a lot of us are pretty skeptical of government and their efficiency and their ability to get results. I think that's most of Americans. So this is going to take some time. But here's what the bill says. And I'll start with a couple of things that are easy to digest that I think are great. One, and this is something I said a year ago. We're getting away with transferring every 5 minutes. You transfer once, free to play. Awesome. Change in circumstance, maybe made a mistake, maybe looking for playing time. Want to transfer once? Perfect. Transfer a second time? You got to sit a year. You can do it. We're not telling you can't transfer, but you got to sit. And I love that. I think that's great. I think expecting complete roster overhaul for every program in every sport every year is ridiculous. I understand those who don't agree with me. I understand the point. Will coaches do it? Will people leave for jobs? Well, there's non-competes in the jobs. There's contracts. I think it's ridiculous for the basketball team to have to go get 11 new guys every year, and for the football team to have to go get 62 guys every year, and for the baseball team to have to go get 27 new guys every year. I don't think that's a sustainable way to handle things. I don't think that was the spirit of what we got into here, and I don't like it. And I don't have to justify it any more than that. I think one transfer is completely fair. A second one, have a seat. You can play after that. Have a seat. I love it. 5-year eligibility and a pro player ban, meaning you got 5 years to play 5 years. You can't be a professional, come from Europe or the G League or the NFL or Major League Baseball or the minor leagues and compete. You got 5 years to play 5. You get hurt, you got 5 years to play 5. You transfer, you got 5 years to play 5. 5 years to play 5. And you can't be a pro and come back. I like that. I'm good with it. The Lane Kiffin rule. You go, the Lane Kiffin rule, huh? That's our coach. What's the deal? You can't leave your team in the middle of a season. Now, they're going to have to alter this calendar to make this reasonable. But I'm not completely against it. I don't think it was an unmitigated disaster here because the circumstances of it happening are going to be so infrequent in my estimation. Because of the way the calendars work in baseball, you'll never see it. The way the calendar works in basketball, you're not going to see it. And the way it works in football, they got to change the calendar around, move recruiting a little bit, and I think it can be handled. So Lane Kiffin rule, I'm good with that. Those are very simple things to understand. You can agree with them, you can disagree with them, but that's what they say in the bill, and it's very, very simple. You got 5 years to play 5. You can transfer once, and then you got to sit out, and your coach can't leave for another job before the season's over. Okay, that's easy to digest. Now you start to get into more big picture things that are a little bit more difficult, and you're going to get some significant dissension from a lot of different people on. One, they're going to prohibit super leagues. They don't want college football to turn into a 35-team super league. You may think a 35-team super league is awesome. You may think it's a disaster. I'm not here to do that part. I'm just telling you the bill introduces, they're trying to keep that from happening. Well, how do they do that? Well, they're saying that conferences that make over $1 billion a year in revenue cannot merge legally. Well, there are only two. The Big Ten and the SEC both make over $1 billion. The Big Ten and the SEC, y'all can't merge. You've got to stay separate. That keeps them from joining forces, destroying everyone financially, and burning everything else to the ground. You may want that. You may think that's where we're headed. They're trying to keep it from happening. That is going to cause some dissension. Okay. And then we get into the NIL stuff, which I'm not a lawyer. I just have my doubts here. They're trying to keep name, image, and likeness endorsements legitimate. Now, I use some air quotes on legitimate. And here's the verbiage that I've read. Name, image, and likeness deals must be for valid business purpose. And then here's the verbiage that I don't believe you can put guardrails on. It says commensurate with compensation paid to individuals with a similar profile, reputation, or notability who are not student athletes. How in the world are we supposed to determine that a 5-star quarterback from Houston, Texas, with X amount of Twitter followers and X amount of Instagram followers and X amount of TikTok followers, who won the Elite 11, was an Under Armour All-American, and was competing? He was getting offers from LSU, Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and USC. How am I supposed to compare that person, that 18-year-old, to someone who's not a student athlete? Like, where are we coming up with this compensation? Valid business purpose? I understand what they're trying to say. I really do. I understand they're trying to say you have to do something to get the money. You have to either make Instagram posts routinely or show up at the dealership or appear on commercials, or that's what you have to do something. That's a business purpose. You have to provide some notoriety and name recognition, which they do. But then when you start getting into whether or not that's a fair compensation based on someone who's not a student athlete, like what other 18-year-old who has a few TikTok followers that's not going to play? Like, I don't understand how they're going to enforce that. I believe that they really are coming at this from a place of reasonable expectation. Like, I'm assuming, I've never watched Maria Cantwell speak or vote, but if she's a Democrat from Washington and Ted Cruz, a Republican from Texas, they probably don't see eye to eye on a lot when they get up to Capitol Hill. Just a guess on my part. And they came together and came up with this. So I don't believe they're trying to do something with massive political agenda behind it. I just don't know how we're going to enforce that. I don't get that. And you go to the next part, which is pooling of television rights. And the way that it's written, if you have an option to pool media rights between conferences and universities, if 75% agree to do that. Well, the Big Ten and the SEC have no interest whatsoever in pooling money with the Sun Belt, the MAC, and the WAC. Like, that's not ever going to be agreed to by the SEC and the Big Ten. They're never going to do that. So I understand trying to get money into the middle so that it all doesn't flow to one spot and that everybody else gets cut out, because that starts with Arkansas's tennis program, which got cut and then reinstated. But it starts with Arkansas's tennis program, and then it goes to, and I'm being completely hypothetical at this point, but you'll see where I'm going. And then it goes to Indiana's baseball program, and then it goes to, now, San Diego State's cutting football, and now they don't have an athletic department because every bit of television rights is in the Big Ten and the SEC, who have now taken control of the ACC, and now everybody got left, and now all we have are 45 football programs and men's basketball programs, and everything else got cut. Like, that's the slippery slope you're trying to avoid by pooling money together. Well, the SEC and Big Ten have all the money, and they're not going to do it. So it's a lot to chew on here. It's not something I can completely go into in a 12-minute segment here. It's not something I'm going to go into a 12-minute segment on. But I think these are the high notes for me, and I understand some of them, and I think some of them are agreeable to a lot of people. We're talking about a hard cap on revenue sharing. They're talking about – there's a lot in this bill that I haven't even gotten to. But the high notes for me of things that most of you driving around listening are, look, one-time transfer, 5 years to play 5, no conferences over $1 billion in revenue can merge, Big Ten and SEC, I'm looking at you. NIL deals have got to be legitimate, and we're going to throw them out if they're not. I don't know how that's enforceable, but that's what they're saying. And then if the other conferences want to pool money together to keep all boats risen with the tide, you can do that if 75% agree, which the SEC and Big Ten are. So it's just a lot. I'm going to continue to talk about this as the week goes on because we're not breaking down a regional. So, and I have more in-depth thoughts and opinions on this than that are just this surface level stuff. But I think it was important to kind of lay the framework for it. In short, like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with where collegiate athletics has gone. I think a lot of people are. I don't know how sustainable 40, 50, $60 million football rosters are every year. Someone would have to show me something that appeared to look more feasible than, hey, let's just call the rich guys and tell them to write a check. Well, we'll get this quarterback. Well, where's he going next year? The Broncos. Now we don't have a quarterback. Pay another one. That seems like a lot to me. And I think that Stanford and Cal in the ACC is ridiculous. And I do think there is value in having mid-major athletic programs. I don't care about them. I don't want them in the college football playoff, but I don't necessarily think that doing away with them completely is a good thing. So trying to keep from a super league that destroys all the other athletic departments, I think is a reasonable cause. But it's just so complicated, and there's so many people that are going to consider their own interest, not the common good of collegiate athletics, that it's just going to be hard to get stuff done. They're going to try, and that's probably admirable. And you're talking about enough money at stake here and enough people's interest at stake here where I don't think it's ridiculous for politics to get involved. I just don't know how much they can do with some of this stuff. It's complicated. There's a lot of people involved. And I think it's admirable they're trying. My thought on how much they can accomplish is pessimistic, I guess is the best way I can put it. We'll move on. Renaissance Homes and Pools brings you our it's Wednesday shows. Not quite Thursday yet. I've only worked one day this week. So it's Wednesday shows. Appreciate them every single week. We're going to take a time out. When we come back, Lane Kiffin spoke yesterday. We'll hear a little bit of that and give my reaction to it. Got Dr. Jeremy Burnham coming up, Koki Riley in 45 minutes. It's a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Storm season is just about here, y'all. Be proactive. Be proactive and give yourself a peace of mind to know that storm is not going to knock your power out. And it's not just hurricanes. Like, we know that that's a strong threat here. But it's also those just nasty afternoon thunderstorms that'll knock your power out for 4 hours. Now you got a hot house. It's dark. Got to leave. If you're working from home, you can't. You got a young child at home. They can't sit there when it's 95 degrees in the house. Just get the Generac home standby generator installed, and don't worry about that. 985-397-1562 is the number. It's 985-397-1562. You can call the Gonzalez store, 225-300-9389. Go with the local option. You can go with the big box stores. You're probably never going to hear from them again. Go with the local option. That's Boudreaux's Electrical Services. They're online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Lifetime Roofing. They're online at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com. It's so important you can trust your roofer because so few of us know what's going on up there, right? I can see if there's a leak, but oftentimes there could be issues that you're never aware of. So if you want to get that inspection done, get the folks at Lifetime Roofing to come out and just take a look at your roof. If you need a new roof, they'll tell you and they can help you with it. If you don't, they're not going to make you go for a new roof. They'll do a repair for you if you just need a quick repair. Maybe your roof's in pretty good shape, but storm season's coming. They can do a tune-up to kind of fortify that roof. But you can trust them to do the right thing because they're here to serve this community. They're not one of these roofers that comes in after storms, tries to sign as many people up as possible, and then hits the road. Lifetime Roofing was founded by people from this community that are planning on being in this community for a long, long time. And you can trust them. So if you want someone to look at your roof, if you think you might need work done on your roof, call the folks at Lifetime Roofing or find them online at lifetimeroofingla.com. That's lifetimeroofingla.com. Lifetime Roofing. All right, Lane Kiffin met with the media at the SEC spring meetings in Destin yesterday. It was a tame press conference. I was thinking, based on a few things, that this might be a little spicier because he just did the Vanity Fair piece, so that's fresh. Because there can be people from Oxford that can make that trip a little bit more reasonably than to Baton Rouge. And he hasn't done a lot of press conferences in Baton Rouge, but there may be Ole Miss beat writers that are there, and you figure that can kick some things up. You've got national writers there that are always kind of looking to kick some things up. And this did not really reach that level in any way. He discussed a couple of things, and one was the return the return to Ole Miss in week 3. And he didn't have a ton to say about it.
I mean, I'm not even there yet. You know, we've got so much work to do before that. We got a huge opener with Clemson. So, I mean, I've been back to Tennessee before, so I guess we got some practice at it. But we'll worry about it when it comes.
Got some practice at it. We'll worry about it when it comes. And he also talked about why he chose LSU over Florida. Well, kind of.
I mean, a lot goes into decisions. They got a great program, and you know, it really was not about that. It really was about LSU and the belief I had in what we could do at LSU and just how it fit and the timing of everything. And so it really wasn't about any other program. It was just specifically about LSU.
And the other thing that he said, and I'll read this to you because I wrote it at LouisianaSports.net in a column I just filed, was he said, "I never said the decision to leave Ole Miss was just about winning national championships. There were a lot of things that went into it." And that may be true. I don't know exactly why Lane Kiffin left. I could give you an estimation. I could give you an educated guess. He said that Lane Kiffin Lane Kiffin said he talked to Nick Saban. He said he talked to Pete Carroll, talked to Ed Ogeron. And he arrived at this was the decision that he wanted to make. And this is something, based on the things that he said, what he said in his introductory press conference, what he said to Vanity Fair, what he has said over time, it appears to me that Lane Kiffin wants the approval of the national narrative. He wants the approval of what he did in Oxford from the Ole Miss fan base. That's just what I'm reading from him. And he says that it's not just about winning national championships. And I'll tell you this. No one in Oxford is ever going to approve of Lane Kiffin again. That's my guess. And I don't think he's going to win over the national narrative anytime soon. Most people that I read, that I listen to, that I watch on Twitter, most people think, hey, you left a team that was potentially going to win a national championship. You can't do that. That's pathetic. Then you try to take the program hostage, and you got sideways with the AD, and you flew in the dead of night to Baton Rouge, and you had people, while your team was trying to win games, you had your families flying around, and like, they don't like the way he handled things. And I don't think he handled it perfectly either. But if he wants people to go, oh, he was right, there's really only one way to make that happen. And he's only in control of 50% of it. LSU needs to win big, and Ole Miss needs to fall flat. Now, I don't care really what Ole Miss does. They're a permanent opponent, and I'm here. The expectation, it doesn't have anything to do with what Ole Miss does. It's just about what LSU does. But if Lane Kiffin cares about national people understanding his side of it, then he's going to need to win big at LSU and have Ole Miss fall flat. Because if that happens, then all of a sudden people go, he probably just hit his head on the ceiling there at Ole Miss. And, yeah, he did way better at LSU, and Ole Miss without him, well, they're not very good. So, yeah, the timing was bad, and he probably shouldn't have done the things that he did right there at the very end, but his decision makes some sense. They won't say that in Oxford, but they can write that nationally. They can say that nationally, and the narrative can be on his side. Again, I don't care, and I don't think anybody in Baton Rouge really does to their core. If Lane Kiffin wins 3 national championships at LSU and Ole Miss wins 1 while he's here, nobody in Baton Rouge is going to go, oh, darn it. Like, no, that doesn't matter. But nationally, if he's trying to skew that perspective, which it feels like he tries to do when he goes and talks to Vanity Fair and has those press conferences, then that's really the answer that he's looking for there. That's really the end of it on the Ole Miss side of things. The real thing that's important is, the LSU side of things that he's trying to get to. And he talked about his meeting with Rich Clark and the College Football Playoff Committee.
I thought it was informative. He's kind of been a no-win in that situation with all the SEC coaches and a couple in there that thought they should have been in this year. So it probably wasn't going to be a great meeting for him. And that they have a really hard job. And I've been critical of them before, and a lot of people have. But that's a hard situation for them to be in. And not that I have the answer. I just always said I think it's more. I think the human element in there is an issue. That's 13 people and 6 athletic directors, and how that gets the best teams, is really challenging. The way that I look at it, that they can do that, and then at the same time kind of please so many different people and conferences.
I think when Lane does this, he's rather insightful. I wouldn't say I agree with him all the time or disagree with him most of the time, but I do think he speaks from his heart when he talks about some of that stuff. He's talked about the College Football Playoff Selection Committee situation for a number of years, and he's doing it now as the LSU coach. He's done it as the Ole Miss coach, and he feels like there are some flaws in that system. And I think that's one of the times when Lane gets on the mic, and I'm like, okay, I'm with you on that. And I was with him on that as well. And then something we did not touch on yesterday was probably an oversight on my part, but that we can bring up now, is the hiring of Ed Ogeron to a new position where he's special assistant for defense and recruiting. And Lane Kiffin spoke about adding Edo to the staff.
It's a unique situation because having known him from before and working with him, and then he was already living there. And so it's something we had talked about a little bit throughout it, and it just seemed like the perfect time to bring him back. And, we talked for a number of days about it and to figure out exactly what it was. And I feel awesome about it because, I feel the comfort of having him on the staff. 17 years ago, we were here as the Tennessee coach, and, knowing that when he's on your staff, certain things are taken care of. he's not in that same role he used to be, but to bring him back to LSU and, with the expanded number of people to recruit that can go on the road, that's a tremendous value anywhere, let alone in the state of Louisiana. So I'm excited about it.
I don't see Ed Ogeron having a massive impact on LSU's football program under Lane Kiffin. He's not a position coach. He's in a role that they just created to bring him into the building. I don't see him as a massive positive, and I certainly don't see him as any kind of negative. You could try to spin some of the things he did on his way out here as negative. I don't really care that much. I think that if Lane thinks there's a little bit of value that he can have knowing who to talk to, knowing some Louisiana high school coaches, and then he's got a polished and distinguished history as a defensive line coach as well. And if you can watch some tape and do some instruction, like that's a positive thing. So I see it as a very minimal move, but one that I understand. They're good friends, and I do believe that Ogeron likes LSU a lot. I think that's true. I think there are a lot of people who are hurt badly by being let go and hold animosity in that direction for a long time. I don't feel like Ed Ogeron did that very long at all here with Baton Rouge. So he's here, and Kiffin talked about the value of having a former LSU head coach on the staff.
Yeah, I think that's really unique to it. Having him on our staff, 2 different places, to have him, having sat in that seat at the same place is tremendous value. And just to bounce things off of somebody that's been there through the ups and downs of it.
And I think that's absolutely reasonable. Ed Ogeron's seen the highest of highs here, quite literally, and some pretty low lows. So he's got a perspective on that. And if Lane finds that to be of help, great. I'm all for it. So, again, not something I think is a big needle mover. It is in name recognition, but I don't think it's going to be massively impactful, positively or negatively, to the LSU football program. I think it's just like, you want him to be here? He's got some perspective. Great, bring him in. Same thing with Johnny Jones coming into LSU basketball. I don't think that's a program-changing move, but if that's a guy you think gives you something, okay, that's great. It's an interesting deal to have Will Wade, Johnny Jones, and Ed Ogeron on staff here at LSU after all 3 were fired. Not that long ago. That's a unique set of circumstances that I can't point anywhere else to see that have happened. So interesting stuff. We'll come back. If you've got a what if for us, it is What If Wednesday. Would love to hear from you on our new text line. 499-1045 is the number. It's in the 225 area code, 225-499-1045. Send your texts in for a what if. Happy to answer them to them. We'll get to those coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety can be a big deal in the bathroom, especially as folks age. We know that. I've told you about it for months and months and months. If there's a loved one in your life that's aging a little bit and you feel like the bathroom could be a hazardous situation, do what you can to mitigate against that risk. You can put in non-slip floors. You can put in guardrails, potentially slippery areas, walk-in tub for comfort and safety. Put in a shower with benches. All these could be a game changer in the bathroom. And it's maybe not something that you think about all the time, but something that David Duvall and his team certainly do all the time. So not every renovation is done for the beauty. Some of it's done functionality and safety. And that's the case here with what David Duvall and his team can do. You can check out pictures of their great work at OneBathAndClosets.com and sit down with David with that free consultation. You can get it from the website. He's happy to sit down with you and walk you through the process. Financing is available 0% up to 18 months, same as cash. It's One Bath and Closets. It's all there online at OneBathAndClosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Y'all, you're running out of time. End of the month. It's when these deals are coming to a close at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. If you're looking for a 2026 Chevy Silverado, it's 0% APR financing now until the end of the month. It's a 36-month offer, 0% APR financing now until the end of the month on a 2026 Chevy Silverado. Looking for a 2026 GMC Sierra 1500, 2.9% financing for 72 months now until the end of the month. It's the 27th, y'all. So if you're looking to capitalize on these deals, got a couple of days. Maybe if you want a Chevy Trailblazer, Chevy Trax, as low as $30,000 at Fabry Chevrolet on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. Go by and see them. You can check out the great deals at FabryChevrolet.com. Fabry family's been at this for 35 years. You know what you're going to get. Wonderful customer service from them. Go by and see them. FabryChevrolet.com. All right, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, so what if Lane Kiffin and LSU lose game 1 to Clemson? What will the national media reaction be, and what will the local media reaction be?
The media reaction?
Oh, we already know, Hunt.
Nationally, people will be surprised because Clemson will be a significant underdog. Locally, it depends on who you talk to. Like, you can talk to me. I'm not going to go nuts because Lane Kiffin lost his first game with an entirely new roster. Like, he's on a 6-7 year contract. The first, I've already downplayed the LSU Ole Miss game in week 3 that everybody thinks is Armageddon. This is a long-term play here. I didn't cut any of the checks for the $40 million roster. That wasn't me. And I'm in the media, and you're asking for the media reaction. You would have asked about the reaction for the guys that cut the $40 million checks, you'd have to go ask them. You're talking about the media reaction, I'll go, that wasn't great, but new team, new quarterback. I watched Nick Saban lose to ULM. And I watched Nick Saban lose to UAB. Like, I watched that Ogeron lose to Troy. This is Clemson. Like, it's not the end of the world if you lose a football game. Now, I don't want them to lose. I think it's going to be an incredible environment. I think they'll win. I don't think Clemson's very good. But depends on who you talk to. I don't think most of the people in the media around here are going to go ballistic. There may be a couple, but I won't be one of them.
I know national media, it was going to be all over ESPN. It will be bad. They're waiting for the second that LSU loses any game. They're just going to want to clown Lane Kiffin. They're waiting. So what if you could take one drafted sophomore who left back for a 3rd year with LSU baseball?
So there aren't that many of them. Certainly DJ LeMahieu was awesome. We're about to lose Derek Curiel after 2 years. But my answer is Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman was on the 2012 team, went in the top 10 in the draft. 2013, LSU was phenomenal. And they really were missing one piece, a true second starter. Ryan Eads and Cody Glenn were okay. But that team was incredible, won over 20 SEC games. And made it to Omaha, and that's the team that lost to UCLA 1-0, 2-1, Cats at a homer, lost 2-1, and lost to North Carolina. But if you had Gausman and Aaron Nola, who was the national pitcher of the year in that rotation, LSU's going to win the national championship, I think. Now, that's tough to say because they lost game 1 the way they did to UCLA, and they'd had to fall back out of it. But you had a good chance because you had it was the best team in Omaha, and you would have had the best 1-2 punch in the pitching staff for sure. So, yeah, that would probably be my answer.
All right, so what if you could go to one regional this weekend?
I would this will be surprising. I would probably go to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about Nebraska's team, but Ole Miss and Arizona State are really interesting because Arizona State has a stud ace and then the best hitter in the country, and they're facing Ole Miss on Friday, who's got great pitching and a home run heavy lineup. So you got 3 good teams there from power conferences. So that would be my pick. The other that's interesting to me is Eugene, where you've got Oregon, Washington State, and Oregon State. That's going to be a fascinating scene there too.
I'm so shocked right now. You didn't say your team, Georgia Tech.
No, I figure I'll hold off till Omaha to go watch them.
Okay.
They're going to crush everybody in their regional, so it doesn't
I'm about
matter.
to say. All right, so this is from the text line. What if the MLB moves forward with getting rid of the high school draft?
I have not seen that. Whoever put that in the text line, if you want to text us like a link to see what that is or tweet it at me. I have not seen where the MLB is going to get rid of the high scores. I know the MLB is trying to cut down on minor league baseball expenses, and make things a little easier for them. It's the same thing the NBA did. They're like, we're tired of scouting these 17-year-olds, and we don't really know if you're LeBron James or Sebastian Telfair, so we're going to get rid of that. So I understand that. If that does happen, and you have to spend 2 or 3 years in college, like LSU baseball is in really good shape because Jay Johnson gets the top high school kids in the country every year, and you'd have Connor Griffin on this team, and you'd have a bunch of guys on this team that couldn't go to the Major League Baseball. So yeah, that'd be good.
All right. So what if next year LSU baseball has an underwhelming season? They travel for a regional, no super, but men's basketball goes on a big run in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, that's even. So you're trying to throw a positive there. I'm so sick of asking. Was Jay on the hot seat? No, he's not on the hot seat. That's the answer to the question. Bad question. He's not on the hot sheet. Look, I'm all for a big LSU basketball tournament run. That is fun. I've been around for so few of them. It was such a big deal in my early life when Strohmile's team went to the Sweet 16. Obviously, 06 was a blast. I was a senior in high school. And then you don't have a lot. Like, you have a Will Wade team that made the Sweet 16. That's kind of it. Like, you don't. So that would be a new experience. Like, I love baseball runs, and my ability to travel to that probably skews it a little bit because I just love going to Omaha. But, like, I'm not going to let's say this. If you were giving me this question this time last year with the national championship in my back pocket, I would say yes. Because LSU baseball fell flat this year, I can't have it happening again. So I can't trade it.
All right, so what – well, I actually like this one. So what if all 3 of LSU men's teams have a winning record but no championships in the next 2 years? Is it a success or a failure?
This perfectly illustrates my points. We have no perspective down here, just none.
Okay.
We just literally took a question, and I appreciate it, and it's great because it creates passion. We took a question that says, hey, by the way, if you have like good teams here that don't win the national championship, is that a failure? When was the last time anyone at Texas won the national championship? A&M won the national championship.
Long time. I don't think A&M ever did it.
Tennessee baseball did get one. Like, it doesn't happen very often. And we just are like, well, are you going to get one in 2 years or what?
Yeah.
That is wild thinking.
And fire the coach.
Like, it's just, and we got to get rid of the coach. He's on the hot seat because he didn't win. Look, I always say this. Like, I think that's wild perspective. I also know for a fact that's why we fill up Tiger Stadium and fill up the box and set attendance records and drink 50,000 Jello shots and flood the stadium in Omaha because of that expectation. So it is a net positive. It's still wild. Like, let's just go ahead and say this. I think people will think I'm nuts for saying this, but I truly believe this in my bones. Like, if you made me bet a significant amount of money to me, Jay Johnson's over-under on national titles at LSU at 1.5 moving forward, I would probably take the under. It's really hard. Ask Dave Van Horn. Ask Mike Martin. Ask Tim Corbin. Like it doesn't just happen all the time. Dan McDonald had Louisville in Omaha every 5 minutes. Has nothing. Jim Schlossnagle has been a national seed 1 billion times. 0. Has nothing. Like, it is so hard to do. We just fall out of bed and do it sometimes. So you're like, well, you got to win every 2 years. It's really hard. It's really hard. All the stuff that's got to go right to get one. You got to have Trey Morgan making a diving play, and you got to get Skeens in. You got to get Tommy White walk-off. And then last year, Arkansas, if their left fielder doesn't fall down, Cade Anderson's got to go start against Arkansas, and then he's not available for the championship series where he threw a complete game shutout. And you got to have Ianson, and then I don't know who to pitch the next game. Cowan? Like, there's so much that has to go right. I appreciate, and look, let's not even talk about football where Lane Kiffin's never won one either.
Injuries.
So, I'm on a soapbox here. We got to get to Dr. We got to get to Dr. Burnham.
That's it for What If Wednesday.
That's it for What If Wednesday. We'll take a timeout, count, and close back the hour.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotro's Outdoor Power. Gotro's Outdoor Power. It is grass cutting season. My grass, which does not need a zero-turn mower because I don't have that big a yard, it's really high right now because it's raining and it's hot and it's grass growing season like crazy. If you've got to maintain a property and you need a zero-turn mower, look no further than my friends at Gotro's Outdoor Power. They've been at it for 22 years. Gotro family owned and operated. That does not mean they are small. Family owned and operated does not mean small. Talking about the largest hustler dealer in the state by far, national hustler dealer of the year the last 2 years. They can get you behind the wheel of a mower for $100 a month. So if you want a new zero turn, 2 locations, Airline Highway in Baton Rouge and in Gonzales. It's Gotros Outdoor Power. Go by and see them or check them out online at gotrosonline.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Always brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on Wednesdays. Looking for the pool of your dreams. Still not too late this summer to contact my guy Joey Blanchard at Renaissance Homes and Pools. You can shoot him a text 225-252-7745. Direct contact with the owner of Renaissance Homes and Pools. You can also check him out at builtbyrenaissance.com. Builtbyrenaissance.com. Time now for Sports Health, presented by Oxner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Dr. Jeremy Burnham with us every other Wednesday. Dr. Burnham, how are you?
Hey, we're doing great over here, Hunt. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Look, we were talking earlier, and you sent me the story about Lionel Messi getting that adductor overload and hamstring fatigue as he reaches the end of his career. I was thrilled to look up his age and see that he is older than me by 6 months. So clearly, I'm in much better physical condition than him. But obviously, as athletes age, that's something that you've got to take extremely seriously. Do guys at that age, at that level, have to do significantly more than guys in their mid-20s as they try to stay in shape and prevent injury?
Gosh, Hunt, I mean, I think as much as I hate to admit it, yeah, that's the reality. That's the truth, you know. I think every year that goes by, you know, we have to kind of do things a little bit differently. And well, look, probably the biggest key is just continuing to stay active. And more people are doing that later in their life. And you're seeing so many health benefits. But we also have to realize we're not 18 anymore. And so our injury profile is different. And what we have to do to warm up and prepare and then recover from injuries is different than it was when we were younger.
I know a lot of folks my age, my wife and I included, are getting into pickleball. And I'm also told whenever I tell people that we're doing some of that, they're always like, yeah, I hear so many people blowing their Achilles out doing that. Do you feel like the amateur athlete who's just out there, the weekend athlete, maybe has some things to learn about how to get out there and be athletic, especially as we reach middle age?
Yeah, you know, the way that I knew pickleball was really getting popular and mainstream is when every day we started seeing more and more pickleball injuries come in. And, you know, probably the biggest thing, I think it's a great sport and it's great to get out there and be active. And just like anything else, though, you just have to be careful when you start. So I saw a stat that over, you know, half of the Achilles ruptures, we just talked about Achilles ruptures, over half of the Achilles ruptures that happen in pickleball happen within the first month of somebody starting to play pickleball. And so that just kind of goes to show you, put a lot of work before you get out there. I think not ramping it up super fast, maybe spending 4 to 6 weeks kind of getting prepared for that and getting in shape for that, and then ramping up as your body gets more used to it. It's probably a good way to cut back on the number of injuries that you see with that sport.
What about running? It's something that a lot of us do. I run every morning, and I feel good doing it. But is that, like, over time, can that prove to be detrimental?
No, look, running is great for you. And, you know, in the old days, they used to think that maybe running was bad for your knees. And even, you know, some orthopedists that I trained with a long time ago would tell patients to stop running, that it was bad for their knees. But all the data has shown that running is healthy for you, obviously just from a cardiovascular standpoint, but also for your knees is healthy. You know, I think your body reacts to that. And, you know, one of the big things is when you're talking about working out and talking about running is just being consistent with it. It's people sometimes get injured doing these spikes where they have all this high activity at once as opposed to spreading it out and being consistent with it. And the data shows if you can continue to be active when you're consistent, that you have a lower injury rate. You know, we talk a lot, like people always ask me about stretching. The way that we used to think about stretching, like just static stretching, like stretching out your hamstring, stretching out your leg, that's not really the way it's recommended to be done anymore. There's really a lot of focus put on dynamic stretching, so getting out there, doing leg swings, doing lunges, doing butt kicks, doing that kind of stuff for about 15 minutes before you start working out or you start running actually cuts back a lot on your injury risk.
Awesome. I know this time of year, a lot of kids out and about, injuries happen, heat-related stuff happens. Tell us about Elite and then the walk-in clinics that y'all have got as as kids are out and about it and not in school for 8 hours a day?
Yeah, we've got a few great things going on at Elite. We have classes going on with Oshner Performance Training, so they have classes for athletes at all walks of life. So younger athletes, kids are out of school, also older people, and so really kind of whatever your goal is, you can find a class with Oshner Performance Training that addresses that. We have a walk-in clinic. One of the keys to preventing injury is catching something early.
Yeah.
So it's always more treatable early. And so go walk-in clinic 7 days a week, and it's open weekdays till 10 p.m. and weekends until 5 p.m. You don't have to have an appointment. You can just show up and get it checked out and address it before it really becomes a problem.
Dr. Burnham, we certainly appreciate it. We'll talk in a couple of weeks.
Have a great week. Thank you.
Sure will. He's Dr. Jeremy Burnham with Oshner. I drive by Elite a couple times a week over there on Burbank. Such an impressive facility and such a resource here for us in Baton Rouge. So keep in mind, you don't always have to have an appointment if kids are out and about, or if you have an issue that you feel like could use some treatment. Head over and see the docs over at Elite. They're awesome. Oshner's such a resource here in our city of Baton Rouge, and we appreciate Dr. Burnham for giving us a little bit of time each and every other Wednesday. Again, Renaissance Homes and Pools brings you our Wednesday shows. Again, not too late to get into that pool of your dreams. Joey Blanchard is such a great guy to work with, and it's one of the keys is you get to work with the owner of the company step by step to create the pool you've always wanted. So, outdoor kitchen, it's a pool. Never too late to make that phone call over to Renaissance. Call Joey Blanchard, 225-252-7745, and you can find him at builtbyrenaissance.com. Fast-moving hour number one opened with the new Yahoo report that two senators, Republican Ted Cruz and Democrat from Washington, have submitted legislation to try to reform college athletics. And I gave you the high notes of that at the top of the show, along with a little bit of opinion. We'll continue to mix that in as the week goes on, because I think it's a big, big deal, but I think it's a long, long way away as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. We heard from Lane Kiffin, did a little what if. So if you missed any of that in the first hour, you can certainly catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. A lot to do in hour two. Saints are on the OTA field today, and we'll get to Koki Riley coming up in 5 minutes talking LSU baseball. We'll do an autopsy with Koki when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com. If you have not noticed, the forecast for the next foreseeable future involves a lot of rain. It has just been a rainy couple of weeks here in South Louisiana. This time of year, that happens. And it's hard to get out on the golf course. Can be. But it's not hard to get into Swing Easy Golf Club. You just show up, get a tee time. And you can play Pebble Beach. You can play Cypress Point. You can play TPC Sawgrass. Test yourself on the island green. Play 18 holes, hit some shots on the driving range, bring a group of 8 in there, and just enjoy some drinks, turn on the regionals on TV, and play a little bit of golf. No matter what you're trying to accomplish in the game of golf, a little bit of fun or a little bit of work to get better, you don't have to be weather dependent. You can go by and see them at Swing Easy Golf Club on C and at Perkins. Become a member. That'll allow you some hours up front in the month, and you can become a member and join their league play, which is coming up this summer. It's Swing Easy Golf Club, Siegen at Perkins. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com.